But a lot of things that you think or know about tempo is wrong. And what I mean by that is, if I were to ask you, chat, who plays slower? Actually, let's shut down Overwatch. Who plays at a slower tempo? A Reinhardt or a Sigma? Who plays slower? Reinhardt or Sigma? You guys tell me. Rein versus Sigma. Who plays slower? Sigma. Okay, Sigma. What does slower mean? What does slower mean? I'm not giving a lot of context. I'm not giving a lot of details right now. I'm aware of that. I just want to. We're gonna build our point slowly a little bit. Tempo, poke, the rate of cooldown usage. Okay, so that's the tricky thing. What does poke mean? What does poke mean? Slower as in progresses and moving and taking space in the map, not doing it fast. What does poke mean? If you said Sigma's a more poke tank, what does that mean? Range damage? Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. Pre-fight? Okay. So here's the thing. If I'm playing Sigma versus Reinhardt, and I'm standing in open space, and there's a lot of distance between me and the Reinhardt, does the Sig want to take this 1v1 slow? Do you want to take this 1v1 slow? Probably. You want to whittle him down a little bit. Potentially. Now, watch this. Watch this. Let's do this. Let's give both of these Reinhardts, or both of these tanks rather, an Ana. Now who has to play slow? Now who has to play fast? When you remove the distance, which tank has to win quickly? The answer, Sig has to win fast. Sig has to play fast. Because if Sigma doesn't hit the rock on the Ana or hit the rock on the Rein and manage to get a big, fast, fat, immediate cooldown trade, maybe the Ana lands a cooldown. I wouldn't even say Sigma, but these guys have to play fast versus these guys. Because if Rein with Ana support is given time in close range, he will kill anything. There will be no way that you can spam out a Reinhardt in proximity. He will swing and swing and swing and swing. Oh no, he gets rocked. Oh no, he gets slept. If he doesn't die or his Ana doesn't die during those cooldown windows, then he will kill you. Rein does not have to win quickly when he's in his effective range. He can take all his sweet time. Rein can swing and then shield and swing and then shield and swing and then shield. Oh no, he's low. If he gets the chance to shield it back up again and go back up again, he's going to kill you. Now I'm going to bring you. Now I know that there's a lot of questions that you guys have right now, but I want you to just bear with me. Bear with me. We're going to give you several more examples here. Cassidy versus Ashe. Now, again, you guys might guess where I'm going with this, but I want you to turn off your brain for just a second and go with your gut. Who, theoretically, on all the YouTube macro videos, is the slower hero? If a coach comes in and says, all right, you guys are playing an Ashe comp versus a Cassidy comp, listen, you guys have to play What does the coach say? Faster or slower? Who plays slower? Ashe. So mini micro, here's the thing. I'm not going to define tempo just yet, because the problem with me defining it is once I define it properly, there's no more problems. The problem I have is that other coaches, not necessarily other coaches, but just the way we generally understand the macro from 2018 or 2017 is so outdated and false that if for me to define it correctly would solve the problem. I'm not defining it. I'm going to let it define itself. Ashe is the slower hero. Now, I want you guys to watch this again. If we make this hero, if we make this matchup, C versus A, very long, who wins? Yeah, I agree with you. Listen, fast and slow are horrible terms. Horrible terms. But we're going to play by the rules. Ashe wins, right? Ashe wins. So Cassidy's kind of screwed. Cassidy has to win fast, actually, because if he doesn't like 2-tap the Ashe or 3-tap the headshot with the Ashe with fall off, I guess, he's just going to get rolled. He just can't win. He just can't win. If he doesn't get lucky and roll the dice quickly, the Ashe is going to just body shot Andy will win. So then this is where it gets interesting. What if the C and the A, the Cassidy and the Ashe, are at point blank range or very close range? Who needs to play fast? Who needs to win fast? Yes, it's the Ashe. If the Ashe doesn't hit the dynamite and land a scoped body shot or headshots, instantly she will die. Because Cassie's very comfortable at that range. He's got cooldowns for it. His roll is on a long cooldown. His weapon requires no scoping at all. He can 80-80 strafe all he wants. So if that Ashe doesn't land that dynamite fast, it's over. It's over. That's a very good question, Herr Miggins. Very good question. So here's the thing, chat. If you are playing at a range to where you are very effective and the enemy comp or enemy hero is not, you don't have to play fast. Once you have created and played the range that you are at, or sustain an advantage, you don't have to play fast. You've earned it. You're going to win. It is on the enemy team to pull something out of the hat. So Herr Meggins has a really good way of describing it. I like that. So whoever has an advantage is often the team that is in no rush. And it is not about fast versus slow with Cassidy versus Ashe, Ryan versus Sigma. Even something like a Junkrat versus a Genji. It is about the range. It's the range of the hero that matters. And once a hero is in his or her effective range, then that hero has the advantage. Now, here's where we can actually apply this. Here's where we can actually apply this. If I am playing Reinhardt versus Sigma, let's just say this is like a brawl comp with Mei. Let's just say with a Lucio, something like that. Maybe you're playing ranked and you don't have all the heroes that you want, but you got Reinhardt, Lucio, and you're playing versus Sigma, Zen. Okay, again, not the perfect. Maybe you got like a Junkrat and like a Tracer, so it's not the perfect spam comp, but it's close enough. As Reinhardt, a bad coach will tell you to play fast, right? That is not helpful. That does not help you. What does a good coach tell you to do? It is not your job to play fast, and a bad coach will tell the Sigma to play slow. That is not the correct answer anyway. What is the correct answer, chat? Play to your strengths. Close the distance. Get in range without dying. And for the Sigma, it's the opposite. It is you do not want to play melee range immediately. You want to play melee range as little as you possibly can. So for the Reinhardt, the reason why this matters, chat, is how many times have you guys played a rank game where the Reinhardt sees they're on a spam comp and says, guys, we have to play fast. And you guys literally, they're running like, they've got like a Zen here and a Sigma here and a Widowmaker here. And what does your Reinhardt do? And runs it down main. Runs it down main. As fast as he can, just charges, runs, or spin just right down the middle of the enemy team. Happens all the time, right? This is not just, by the way, this isn't just rank game. This is how a lot of teams struggle with understanding macro. I mean, even Overwatch like teams, I don't fully understand this one. So the reason why this matters, chat, is fast versus slow. Listen to me. Fast versus slow has very little to do with the time on the clock. For example, the proper way to play Reinhardt here would probably take more time than playing fast. Because what would the proper Reinhardt team do? What would the proper Reinhardt team do to close the distance properly and clear space properly? What would they do? Is it running it down main as fast as you possibly can? No. You would go rotate left. Make the Zenyatta rotate away. Guess what? During that rotation, guys, you were taking a lot of damage. So guess what? We have to rotate, and we might have to stop for 5 or 6 seconds and let that time tick. It's not good, but it has to happen. And then you rotate with speed again. And then all this time, you're clearing angles, you're clearing space, you're keeping them on the move. And eventually, you're going to catch something. But chat, the time isn't the factor unless you're actively engaging. So I can take my sweet time if I need to create and clear space and to close the distance. But when I actually catch something, that's the time that matters, right? It's like herding. Yeah, exactly. So, in fact, you play slower because you're more methodical and more careful. You don't want to spend a lot of time in their effective range. In other words, when you're crossing out in the open where these spam comps are good, you want to play fast. I cannot write with this pen or this mouse. Fast. But then if you need to stabilize, that's fine. And then again here, we're rotating out in the open. We're in their effective range. We do not want to be in their effective range long, guys. We have to rotate fast. We have to rotate fast. You see? Do you see what I'm saying? And for the flip side of things, the enemy Sigma, if you say Sigma, you guys always play slow. Always play slow. Always play slow, guys. Always play slow. But consider this. What if you are playing versus a Reinhardt comp, and the Reinhardt comp clears your Widowmaker out and takes a ton of damage getting from here to here, right? And they're all inside this room, very low HP. Do you continue to only play slow? Or do you look to turn up the tempo? In other words, do you attempt to play, let's not even use tempo anymore. Let's say, do you play more aggressively here? I mean, I'm spoon feeding the answer here. Yes. Why? What did you do in your effective range where the Reinhardt had to play fast? What did you do? You wasted their cooldowns, right? They are weak and fragile because they had to walk through your effective range, your long-ranged comp. So then when they want to stabilize and take a breath, you do not play cowardly. You might even push. I'm not saying this is always the case, but you are significantly more likely and more important, might need to actually push then than it is for you to continue to run and run and run and run, because you're not going to be able to run forever. And right now, the chances are that your Widowmaker probably had to use grapple. But as Sigma, did you lose any shield while they were rotating? No. Did you have to blow all your HP? No. Did your Zenyatta lose cooldowns? No. If you're playing, like, let's say, I don't know, Junkrat. Did your Junkrat? Oh no, Junkrat's low HP. I need help. No. Did your Ana? Is she low? No. She might have used cooldowns on the rotate, but chat, here's the other thing. What if you don't even use cooldowns on the rotate? What if you just use your M1 pressure, you spam them down, and then you actually push into melee range versus a Reinhardt composition with your cooldowns? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm suggesting? It's heresy, but it is the right way to play. That Reinhardt doesn't have shield. That Lucio doesn't have amp. Maybe their Ana had to nade the floor. Maybe their Bap had to shift. Maybe their Genji dashed. The Mei walled. And they're missing cooldowns. They're low on HP. And that's when you push them out of your effective range because you have such a massive cooldown advantage. You can actually take the brawl. Watch this, chat. Watch this. Every hero in Overwatch, for the most part, wants to brawl. You heard me right. Thank Egoist Cat for being the first person to publicly talk about this. Now, this is a little bit of an exaggeration, but bear with me for a second. Every hero in Overwatch wants to brawl. The difference is when. When. Reinhardt wants to brawl early and often. As the sooner that Reinhardt gets in brawl range, the happier he is. Mei, Reaper. Short range heroes like brawl, and they always like brawl. But if you get down to, watch this, a Sigma comp, or a Zen comp, or a Hanzo comp, you absolutely want to push. You absolutely want to close the distance and brawl to finish the fight, but you can't do it early because that's not your effective range. You have to use your range to get an advantage, which you think, and then push. If I'm playing Brig Zen backline into a Reinhardt comp, if I never push, then I will be at a disadvantage. If, however, I utilize my range, I whittle down, I force out cooldowns, and then push afterwards, once I have an advantage, you will do significantly better. The reason why you do that is to guarantee finishing the advantage that you got. Now, there are exceptions to that. When does Widow want to brawl? She doesn't. But here's the thing, chat. Here's the thing. Even Widow, who's the extreme outlier, when you, for example, if you're a Widowmaker, chat, did you see my Widow review earlier? Did you see my Widow review earlier with the Sombra on Midtown? Do you remember when we talked about when you force the Sombra out, what do you want to do as Widowmaker? What do you want to do? What do you want to do with Widowmaker once you clear the Sombra? Once you force the Tracer recall? Once the Winston has used bubble and disengage? Once the ball has slammed and rolled away? Once the Genji has used deflect? You push. You push. You take space. You play more aggressively. You see what I'm saying? So even though Widow doesn't want to get to melee range, she still plays more aggressively once through her range, through her gun, through her threat, she has forced cooldowns. She then pushes. So it's all about finding your range and finding when do I want to push. So let's put it this way. It's not about when do you want to brawl. It's about when do you want to push. Do you want to push early and often because you're Reinhardt? Or do you want to push late as a Sigma player, or as a Zen player, or as a Hanzo player, as a I don't know, a Brig player, even a Lucio player? Lucio wants to be melee range early and often, as much as he possibly can. An Ana player, though, doesn't want to necessarily play melee range immediately or push immediately. She wants to see if she can support her team, set up a play, and then look for an opportunity to push. Exactly. And the reason why this is so important is because you have to understand this if you want to, because the danger is either A, push brainlessly fast all the time. In other words, I'm playing Reinhardt and I think we have to play fast. We have to play fast. We have to play fast. I have to skip steps. I have to go in. When you can take your time and set things up as long as you're not peaking them, right? As long as you're restabilizing. And or B, the problem is that you're playing a spam comp and you never, ever push your advantage. You never, ever push your advantage. I'm going to do something. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about really fast. I'm going to give you another example. So I released a video on YouTube not long ago. And it's just the first thing that comes to mind because it's like the most easy way of demonstrating it immediately. Watch this here. So ignore my stupid face in the top left, okay? So watch me playing Sigma here and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, okay? So I'm not a very good Sigma, but bear with me, okay? So I'm playing range versus Reinhardt. Range. Look at his shield, look at his shield, look at his shield, look at his shield, look at his shield. I'm waiting for the Zenyatta right click, okay? His shield is low, This rock is stupid, so I have to back off. Now watch, do you see how, okay, now right here, this is crucial. They have used cooldowns, they have had to back off because we have played at our range for a long time. Now, ignore the symmetric kill for just a second. We have played at range, we've whittled them down, we've forced their Cassidy out, we've broken about half of his Reinhardt shield, just playing our range. Now is my opportunity to walk forward. If I had stayed at range and not pushed my aggression a little bit, now I still want to stay at range, but if I had not pushed my aggression a little bit, that Reinhardt would have recharged his shield, they would have retaken their angle, healed back up again, and then we would have started from scratch all over again. I press W now because we've earned it. Now I still have to be careful, right? Now look at this here, Do you see this? Do I still want to play range versus a Reinhardt? Of course. But I took a more aggressive position. We earned it. So now I'm going to restabilize. I'm going to shoot out their angle. And now that Reinhardt gets antsy because that Reinhardt is thinking, I have to push something. They're taking space away. But the problem now is because I have already taken the space to begin with, for him to push me, which he does right now, he has to turn his back to the rest of my team. And if I can defend myself by using my cooldowns well, like I did with that rock, do you see this? There's the lamp. Now we end up losing this fight. I don't remember why or how. I think I trolled a lot of it. Yeah, they built up a BAP window. That's what happened. They built up a BAP window and they end up getting a pick off of it. We end up winning. But that's the key. Let's watch it again. There's the flux. I'm going to take aggressive space. They're all low. Now again, if I stood here right now as Sigma and just shot Reinhardt shield, playing range, and never pushing, we would have stalemated this fight. I had to walk forward, staying range if I could, and take space. So let's talk about one more aspect here. By the way, does this make sense, chat? Does this make sense? I've never really kind of talked about this out loud. To be frank with you, I'm not explaining it as well as I could. I just hope I'm not explaining it completely badly. Okay. So let's talk about one more thing that can theoretically be interpreted as playing fast versus slow. Fast versus slow. Watch this. Winston plays faster than Sigma. Let's not do Sigma. Let's do Reinhardt. I'm trying to think of what's a good example here. Let's do this. Let's do this one. Winston plays faster than Reinhardt, but Doomfist. No, I'm gonna leave it right there. Let's just do Winston versus Reinhardt right now. When you have a pick, do you still play slow or fast? You push your advantage, but you don't end. You need to continue to push your advantages, but don't overstep. Okay. I'll check it in a second. Sorry, the activity feed sometimes doesn't pick up channel points things I've noticed. Okay. So again, chat, listen. Winston plays faster than Reinhardt. Can anybody think about why somebody could say that and it'd be accurate? Now, to be very clear, I'm going to give you guys a hint. All that we talked about in terms of playing fast versus slow, it was irrelevant. It's about range. Well, actually, it's not entirely irrelevant. There's a different way of thinking about fast versus slow that can affect what you think. Think about the cooldowns. Yes, exactly. Los Polus. Exactly. Cooldowns. What is unique about Winston and what is unique about Reinhardt? It actually doesn't have anything to do with range right now, necessarily. It's cooldown. How reliant is the hero on cooldowns? Very. And how reliant is the hero on cooldowns? The cooldown, that was horrible. This is what we want it for. Right? You see this? Bubble is a value spike. Rhine is constant. Not totally constant. There's no hero in Overwatch that is consistent. Everybody has spikes. But Winston is shoom, right? Now, even with his right click, when a Winston doesn't have bubble, he is very weak. He's he doesn't do a lot. He can't do a lot. Reinhardt is reliant off of shield, but it's usually not broken in Overwatch 2. He's reliant off of fire strikes, but it's not that important. And he's reliant off of charge, but it's not everything to him. So Reinhardt does have cooldowns that matter, but not anywhere near as much as a Winston. You see? And you can even break this down into not only how reliant are they on the cooldown, but how fast they get the cooldowns back. So for example, a Doomfist might actually play faster than a Winston because a Doomfist gets when he has his cooldowns, is even more cooldown reliant than a Winston, because a Winston can still theoretically hold space, use mouse 1, spam his mouse 2, whereas a Doomfist, if he spams his mouse 1, he's missing out in combo, isn't he? So Doomfist theoretically gets his cooldowns faster and is more reliant on his cooldowns than a Winston is. And the reason why this is important, in, out, right, but it's all in or all out with Doomfist, and less or so with Winston, and less or so with Reinhardt, and less or so with D.Va. And you get all the way to a hero like Sigma, and Sigma's cooldowns are very important, but Sigma's value is relatively consistent. There's a small spike when he has his rock and his shift, but then it's relatively consistent. Winston is extremely reliant on his cooldowns. So Winston value over time, don't worry, I'm not going to get too mathematical with y'all, don't worry, will look like this. Right? Whereas a Zarya, we did this graph way back in the day, you guys remember this? Will have spikes when she has bubble, but she gets them more often. And even when she doesn't have bubble, she's more consistent than Winston. But the gap here is what a Winston comp has to exploit to beat a Zarya comp. If a Winston comp doesn't get a lot of value out of hit the Winston's bubble, then the matchup is over. It's done. You see that? And we can look at like a Reinhardt comp. I'm going to throw in another color in here. Let's do it here. And a Reinhardt comp might be like this. Or on fire strikes or charge. You see that? Do you see this? Yes, over time, Zarya's theoretically would go higher because of charge, sure. Well, you tell me, Lockie. What do you guys think? What would the curve look like for Junker Queen? Let's start with that one. What would the curve look like for Junker Queen? How reliant is Junker Queen on her cooldowns? Let's compare everything to Winston. Very spiky, right? Now, her knife comes back so fast that it's not even really a cooldown. Her gun reloads pretty fast, so that's fine. Does anyone know what is it? What is it? Carnage? What is Carnage's cooldown? What is Carnage's cooldown? Does anyone know? Like 8 seconds? Yeah, okay. So she's pretty reliant on Carnage, but then Shout is a massive cooldown, even longer than Winston, right? And she's not as reliant on it as Winston is necessarily, but it is important. So Junker Queen might have slightly higher value than Winston, but her spikes might even be, well, let's put it this way. Her spikes are not quite as high, right? Because her Shout isn't impactful. You see this? That's what Junker Queen would look like. She's still very cooldown reliant, though, isn't she? On both her Carnage, and these spikes would be, I mean, if I wanted, okay, let's try to do this accurately. Let's just try. Her value is higher, and it starts very high when she has Carnage, which should be immediately. So, like, let's just say it's here. She's got Carnage, and she has Shout. She uses Carnage, it takes a dip, right? She uses Shout, massive dip, right? Now she has Carnage again. Now she has Shout again. She's just used Carnage. She's just used Shout. She gets Carnage again. Do you see what I'm saying? So, this is hideous. But she's very reliant on Carnage and Shout. Okay. Orisa. Where do you guys think Orisa falls? It's the ugliest graph I've ever seen in my life. Where do you guys think Orisa falls into this graph? So Orisa is flatter than a Winston because her cooldowns, whether they're Harpoon, her Javelin Spin, more consistent. But she still has one big spike around Fortify. So what I would say, without doing the goofy Junker Queen graph level of detail, is that she is certainly more value than Winston when she has nothing. But she's also fairly reliant on her Fortify, right? So we might see this with Orisa. So very middle of the pack. Very cooldown reliant, but not as much so as a Winston. Maybe not quite as much as a Junker Queen. I'm not really sure. But she is very reliant off of that Fortify. I would not say like Reinhardt. I would say Orisa is more reliant off of her Fortify than a Reinhardt is off of his Fire Strikes or his Charge. Reinhardt would be more the opposite end of the consistent extreme for me. Orisa is more cooldown reliant, I think. As soon as she doesn't have Fortify, she's in serious trouble. Now, this is why Diva is strong. Chat, why? And this is why Diva is strong. What does Divas look like? What does Divas look like? Right, so Fortify is a cooldown. Yeah, exactly. So Fortify has the same cooldown as Monkey Bubble, but it is not as powerful as Monkey Bubble. So therefore, it doesn't quite have the same peak. High and flat. High and flat. My Diva actually is not as cooldown reliant as you think. Here's why. Does anybody know how long it takes Matrix to fully recharge? From 0. Does anybody know? Somebody test it for me. I can't pull up the game right now. I've got my graph going here. I think it's like 5 seconds. I think. And then her boosters is what? 5 seconds as well? Is boosters 6 seconds? Okay. What about boosters? And what about micro missiles? Now, micro missiles is not the most impactful cooldown for Diva either. 6 seconds for DM, okay. Does anybody know about boosters 4? Okay, micro missiles. What is micro missiles again? Somebody tell me what micro missiles. Micro 7. Okay, so Diva is this. Because Diva looks and feels like a very cooldown reliant character, but she's not, because she gets them back at such a rapid rate that that's it. So Diva is a relatively consistent hero. Now, this is where we tie it back into fast versus slow. The way you can define fast versus slow, an accurate way to describe it, would be that there are heroes that need to play fast when they have their cooldowns. They are very fast at providing value, and there are other heroes that are less reliant on cooldowns, right? So there are heroes that are fast in terms of their when they have their cooldowns, they need to get a very quick burst of value, fast. And there are other heroes that do not need a quick burst of value around their cooldowns. They can be more patient. Right, Lockie, right. Do you guys remember what we talked about with the Sigma Zen, right? When do you want to brawl? You want to brawl a Winston comp or push a Winston comp when they are here. You do not want to play aggressive when a Winston has bubble necessarily. You can push them, you can try and force the bubble, but you need to be very aware that he's very strong. This is where you want to go. Roadhog will be relatively low overall, big spike for Hook, and slight spike with Breather. Exactly. So Rein is actually, in regards to cooldowns, a very slow and consistent hero. He still plays for short ranges, but there are not very big spikes for Reinhardt. Now, what I don't want you guys to do is to overthink this one too much. There are applicable things for this, but a lot of this is more, it's interesting, it's a way of thinking about the hero. This isn't necessarily going to revolutionize the way you play. But there's two things that you could pull away from this that you can actually apply in your game. It's understanding, one, that fast comps don't always have to play fast. If they're avoiding, and by that I mean short range comps don't always have to play fast. Short range comps can hide. Short range comps can push cart. Short range comps can stage. Short range comps can rotate. And then on the flip side, fast range or long range comps don't have to play slow. You need to start slow by taking angles in space and whittling the enemy down, but there can be opportunities for you to close the distance and play fast. How do you go after him? Well, you don't necessarily go after Winston. That's a great question. When Winston doesn't have jump, you don't actually necessarily go after him. You just push his team. You push forward, you take space, you take angles, you start shooting the backline, you go more aggressively, you take an aggressive sightline with Widowmaker, because if the Winston doesn't have bubble, the Winston will not punish you for walking forward aggressively. It's not so much to kill the Winston, it's more so that you punish his team for not having his pressure anymore. Lumos, thank you for the sub, mate. I appreciate it. So this is very, very interesting. Right, exactly, Hair Megans. Exactly. So again, the two takeaways, if you're playing a short-range brawl comp, you don't always have to play fast. You just need to play your range. You can do nothing, you can hide, you can push cart, and so on. And then if you are a ranged comp, you don't have to always play slow. You can play spam angles and look for opportunities to push. It is more important that you understand the range of your hero and your composition than it is that you have some weird idea about tempo. Moose, thank you for the sub. So those are two things that you can start thinking about more in your ranked games. Those are two things you can start thinking about more in your ranked games. If a Widowmaker takes a hard flank on the enemy backline and is at point blank range, if she does not hit that shot immediately, she will die. So the slow hero has to play fast when she's not playing in her range. But if the Widowmaker is playing an extremely long sightline and has a great scope for the entire field, she is in no rush whatsoever. She is playing in her effective range, she can chill. It's not about tempo, it's about range. And the reason why I bring this up is, like I said, it is something that has been regurgitated over and over and over again since 2017. And it is never, not even in Overwatch 1, never has it actually been the most important thing, or the best way of describing things, or the best way of understanding things.